NIH grant applications can wait. We're here to record a quality gaming podcast. Welcome to the Impact Factor. The Impact Factor is what happens when two scientists and two best friends get together to talk about video games. My name is Alex Samocha, and I'm joined this week, as I am every single week here on the Impact Factor, by the guy who was filled with jealous rage when he learned that I spent my last weekend playing the Street Fighter V beta, mostly successfully. My co-host, Charles Fliss.
Was that beta even up? Did that even come up last week?
I managed to get a solid, I'd say probably a solid hour and a half, 2 hours of playtime out of it.
Over how many days?
Over the course of like three days.
How many complete matches was that?
I spent most of it in the training mode, but I faced against two people online, and then a third I matched against them, but then I got booted before even the match started. But I'll just have you know, for this round 0 of the 3-part Street Fighter V beta, Alex is currently undefeated and online.
Yeah, well, this is how you guys know that he is a real hardcore fighting game enthusiast. As soon as he said, well, I spent all my time in the beta in training mode. We do. Like, you probably got matched against some poor guy who, like, couldn't even do a Hadouken.
No, okay, one of my 2 wins was against someone who still definitely learned the fundamentals, but my second was close. We went back and forth. I was playing Nash, he was playing Ryu. It's close. So, man, we'll get into this in experimental methods. But, yeah, it was close. And honestly, I'm kind of excited because literally few matches I got had very good netcode. So, like, there was no lag and I could put in my combos, the horrible ones that I learned I could do. But anyway, the folks need to address something here right up. You're going to be sounding awfully, like, political and NPR today. Tell the folks what your situation is for this recording.
Well, actually, I am broadcasting live from Tokyo Station. Actually, I'm sitting in a Starbucks underneath Tokyo Station, trying desperately to not draw too much attention to myself while we record this podcast, connected to beautiful Starbucks Wi-Fi.
Nice. Starbucks Wi-Fi holding it up. Let's hope it holds down the fort. If anyone has issues with this episode, we'll know why. Just blame. So
this is All Things Considered, coming to you live from Tokyo. Our host today is Alex Samocha and Charles Fliss.
Yeah, right. Struggles continue in Syria this week.
Oh man, you've got it down.
North Korea has once again declared war on South Korea and the United States. Analysts fear that the drought has intensified in North Korea, spurring on their third declaration of war since 2014.
With us today, we're going too far with this. We need to get the video games.
Okay, we're going way too far. That is legit news, though. North Korea did again declare war on South Korea and the United States, so they must need some resources. Anyway, so why are you in Tokyo, man?
Well, actually, I'm here to pick up my younger brother, who is coming to visit. He's going to spend a week here in Japan. We're going to tear it up. It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, I am excited for you. But let's get into it. It's a slower week. The summer is always slow. Everyone calls it like slow, like kind of like the doldrums and stuff. It's that in-between period between like the exciting spring releases and the very exciting, fall, winter, holiday releases. But I think we got quite a bit to talk about. But the Impact Factor is where I bring my perspectives as a biomedical scientist and combine them with and sometimes against Fliss's social scientist worldview to have great discussions about video games. Let's get it started right away with some news and views.
News and Views.
In an academic journal, News and Views collects the best of recent events and findings. Here, Fliss and I scour through the week in video game news to find the stories with the biggest impact. So, Fliss, what do you think was the most impactful story?
Well, this week, I'm going with a story that makes me feel the most hyped up. And you probably can't hear that in my voice, but I'm hyped. I am really hyped for this. And that's that Del Toro has come out and said that even though Silent Hills has been canceled, he and Kojima are still trying to work together and will hopefully still be collaborating on something. Maybe a game. I hope so.
Maybe a game. Yeah, you never know with the two of them. Like, they're both kind of crazy people with, like, tons of ideas, and you don't know what's going to come of it. Yeah, so everyone got excited. I think you and I included. The internet at large got excited when Hideo Kojima, the famous guy behind Metal Gear Solid, though you wouldn't know it looking at the box art
anymore.
for Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah,
it's not even
anymore,
Kojima
right?
Productions anymore.
No, nothing. Is he even going to be in-game anymore? Because he always puts his name in. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Announced a partnership with Guillermo del Toro, famous for a lot of things, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, and Hellboy included, were going to work together on Silent Hills, and their early stages of their collaboration resulted in the development of PT, or Playable Teaser, which I think is probably one of the best horror games of all time, without exaggeration. But yeah, then Konami had its weirdness that we've talked about here on the Impact Factor, and Silent Hills was functionally like, well, Konami is like, we're still working on it, but it's not being worked on right now. So you're like, what?
Yeah, what?
But now we come to this.
Yeah, and Silent Hills, of course, a classic franchise, one of the original horror franchises. Really amazing thing. And so the idea of having Kojima and Del Toro working on that was just incredible, but didn't pan out.
No, did not pan out. It's hey, you're in the homeland of Konami, where their business is made, right? They're doing the pachinko machines, so they don't need no video games no more.
Yeah, man, actually, it's one of the worst things about living in Japan is you'll be driving down the road and you'll see a building that just looks awesome, and you'll be like, what is that thing? And you'll get really close to it, and they'll like have dinosaurs outside or have flashing lights on the roof, and every single time it's just another pachinko.
Oh man, yeah, just get your hopes up for nothing. You're not a fan of the pachinko?
Not at all. I mean, I'm not big into gambling. I dabble in it from time to time, but I'm too risk averse to really enjoy it. This even
The cheapskate within me agrees with you.
even when I played Pokemon, right? You had those gambling machines which were based on pachinko, incidentally. They were slot machines, but slot machines are a popular part of pachinko, so that's why Japanese kids would have been familiar with going in there, even though there aren't any casinos in Japan. And so even in those games, I would like only do it if I had like so many coins that if I got something bad, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, right.
So no, I'm not a fan of pachinko. I don't think it's very interesting. The slot machines here are more interesting because they're integrated with like video game properties, and they have more interactive features. So maybe if those came to Vegas, which is what Konami's working on, that could be of more interest. But I mean, gambling's a ripoff, and I need my money for a PS4.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So it came out that at least, at the very least, Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro are talking and collaborating on some kind of project of some kind. The gamer inside me and the host of this podcast inside me would love for it to be another horror-inspired video game. Del Toro has had notoriously bad luck with games. He partnered with THQ and was out on stage at E3, I think E3 2009, maybe 2010, talking about his properties. I think it was called Hate or something. I don't even know. It's so long ago. But then obviously THQ liquidated the property. Nobody picked up. The game died. Del Toro was going to work with Kojima. That died. Project's not picked up. So the gamer in me and the horror fan would love to see a horror game that comes out of this, but I'd be equally fine with a horror movie, a horror TV series. Who knows? Now that he's parted ways with Konami, Hideo Kojima can literally do whatever he wants.
Can you imagine?
He's got that blank check sitting for him.
Can you even imagine what like a horror TV series from those two would look like? I mean, man, it would just be like Supernatural but good.
Or The Strain but good. But The Strain is Del Toro, so I don't know.
I mean,
maybe the craziness of Kojima can just make it.
I enjoy The Strain. I enjoy it.
Oh man, it is so bad. It's so
but it's
bad.
like bad in a fun way.
Oh, it's sometimes. Oh god, there's a whole nother discussion. I've been watching season 2 here, and it's
so you're just as guilty.
It's so bad it's hard to watch.
Just as guilty.
It's so bad it's hard to watch for being bad's sake. But hopefully, whatever they make is good for good's sake, and is quality, and is maybe a game.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Is Hellboy 3 happening? I know he was trying to work on that.
Yeah, and Ron Perlman is pushing for that, so tweet about it. Tweet about Hellboy 3. Get it noticed. I'm always harping on that. I want Hellboy 3.
Is the hashtag still trying to...
I want Hellboy 3.
Hashtag.
I want Hellboy 3. Hashtag Hellboy 3, man. Hashtag make it happen.
Oh, man. You millennial.
That may be the dirtiest thing you've called me on this podcast. All right, but you were getting excited about something.
I was getting excited. Way to put a damper on it, man.
It's what millennials do.
My most impactful story of the week, yes, it's just you millennials these days, these kids. It's actually a week-long story. So we have going on. It started this last weekend. It's still going on now through these next couple of days. Summer games done quick. This is a week-long video game speedrunning event. You have people from all around the world who participate in these speedruns. And for those of you who are the uninitiated, speedrun is basically finding a way to beat a game as fast as possible, as the name might imply. More than often, this involves glitching the system, exploiting errors in the code, and just basically cheating around the game, how the game was designed by the designers and by the coders to find these exploits. And so, as opposed to something like esports, which Fliss and I talk about here a lot on the podcast, speedrunning is more like this Olympics or sort of kind of skill competition. It's less so they're not trying to compete against each other in a certain way. They're optimizing these ways to glitch through the environment or trigger a number input that can teleport their character across a way or skip boss fights. But Summer Games Done Quick is an annual thing that's organized. It's streamed on Twitch. They have games going pretty much all day long. It's also done for charity, so they are raising money for Doctors Without Borders, which is a noble cause. And so people tune in. You can watch these crazy speedruns. And one of I think the best things about this is they have games from all different sides of the spectrum. They have games about the big ones like Legend of Zelda and Super Metroid and others of that ilk, but they also have these games that you've never heard of before, like Mischief Makers or any of these crazy games like that. And so I think it's really kind of cool that you have these things being played, and really it just brings people together in a way that I think is really interesting to watch. So Fliss, have you watched any of Summer Games Done Quick? Speedrun any games yourself?
I don't do any speedrunning, but I do enjoy watching it. I think it's really like track for nerds, and I'm all about that. So it's fun, and it's for a great cause. So I especially like the Mario speedrunning. I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah, they have I've seen a Mario 64 speedrun before where people just kind of glitch through things, and the one glitch that everyone is most knowledgeable about is being able, there's some way where if you jump backwards up the stairs leading to Bowser and the final boss, you can just kind of jump right straight through him without having the requisite number of stars or whatever it is. But there have already been some great events from this year. The money is rolling in. The games bring a lot of attention. It's consistently around or above 100,000 viewers, so it's pretty big. But there was actually you get the best and worst of people when speedrunning. You had this guy who was obviously nervous while he's speedrunning Crash 2 and made some very uncomfortable jokes that were weird, but then on the same hand, there was also this great Prince of Persia speedrun that happened the other day where everything was going wrong and the game was just messing up on him, and there's a lot of instances where the game can lock out or freeze on you because, again, a lot of these people are breaking the code of the game to make these exploits work, and he kept freezing on him, but he was in good spirits and the crowd was great, and hundreds of donations ran in just during that event, and I've seen a little bit of that, and it's great. So I think Summer Games Done Quick and the other speedrunning events is just a really cool part of a community. These games, oftentimes you only have those few major kind of, derivations, there's the core audience, and there's the casual audience, and then there's the people who play these genres, but speedrunning is its own entity, and it's always so cool to see wow, how did you figure this stuff out and are able to consistently perform it?
I know, man, it's awesome. When you see people breaking the code of these games like this, sure, you can read about how to do it online, but who goes in and figures this stuff out? Just the time and dedication and effort to doing that, I think it's great. It's so cool. Yeah,
and it's such a cool part of the community. It's stuff that it's cool that you can turn into it. It's cool that you can watch it. It's cool that they're making all this money for charity. And Doctors Without Borders, is a great cause. It racks in a lot of money. And then obviously some of the highlights of each year. I'd say one of the speedruns you should see is probably coming up towards the end, so by the time this podcast is posted, it'll probably still be coming. Check out the Super Metroid speedrun. I've never played Super Metroid, but watching that speedrun is great. It's just kind of fun and highly skill intensive, and these people are masters of their craft, so I recommend it. So that's Summer Games Done Quick. If you just Google it, you go to Twitch. They got an archive of a bunch of games, so hey, you'll probably find some game you played during your childhood. You're like, wait, what? People speedrun this? People speedrun Tomba? They do.
Oh man, Tomba. I have such nostalgia for Tomba just because it was advertised in big page spreads in my comic books.
Oh yeah, it was I remember that. Yeah, it was everywhere in comics.
So yeah, no, I'm going to tune in to watch that Tomba speedrun. That's absolutely happening.
Oh man. All right, Fliss. What's another story that really grabs you by your haunches.
Well, hey, we like talking about esports on the podcast.
Digital
here.
sports.
And, speedrunning is great, right? Because I think that as we argue for games to be more of a sporting event, as we argue that this is more of a skill, I think that speedrunning is definitely something that helps us make that argument. But I think as we continue to get more and more into sports, we're going to run into a lot of the same problems that other competitive sports have. And one of those is going to be performance-enhancing substances.
Oh, goodness. So what happened, Fliss? Tell the folks what's been happening.
The Electronic Sports League, or ESL, has announced that it will soon begin drug testing everyone who signs up to be a competitor. Now, what kind of drugs? I mean, like, you're not exactly popping roids
Roid rage.
to be good at Call of Duty, but several prominent Counter-Strike players have admitted to using Adderall to try and increase their reaction speed. And we talk about twitch, but that's what you call it, right? In those games, is being able to twitch back and forth. And so we've got people who are using prescription drugs and over-the-counter substances to try and be better at the games they're playing. And that's a problem.
Yeah, this story is one of those stories that's just kind of bizarre. I'm sure this is an initiative that would have taken place at some point, right? Because esports are growing, and we've talked about this before. The main hurdles they have to overcome are time and money, and the time is being put in, the money is starting to flow in. But it's strange. So this Counter-Strike player openly admitted, like in an interview, he's just like, oh yeah, me and my teammates do Adderall so we could stay up late and work, play longer hours in the day and focus and be at our most precise. Like, very nonchalantly. Like, what an idiot. Like, this Counter-Strike player and his team have single-handedly brought drug testing to esports. Which it's a good thing. You're not gonna, I don't think any drugs are gonna give you the same advantage that, human growth factors or steroids are gonna give you in other sports. But at the same time, it gives an edge for doing an illicit and often illegal activity. And something you want to discourage, especially, again, if we're trying to talk legitimacy, or if not even legitimacy, because, some would argue esports will never be legitimate, others argue esports are legitimate already. I think it just gives it another way, just without drug testing and with having players abusing drugs, it gives another people to disregard it and ignore it and to treat it as some sort of sub-form of entertainment. And so, I think this initiative is a good thing. They're partnering with the same kind of drug testing companies that have worked with professional sports.
Which is how we can guarantee that it'll be kind of ineffective.
Yeah, right? People find ways around it. If you're Lance Armstrong, your team will just agree to buy him a new piece of technology for further drug tests to ignore Lance Armstrong's drug results.
Yeah, no, it's, first of all, using drugs in sports is just ridiculous, but I can't believe, I was right with you there when I read this interview with this guy who was just like, yeah, we use Adderall. And I was just like, you just said that? Like, you didn't even have to go after you about that? Like, you're just like... And I think this is part of the problem that we have with some... I'm going to get in trouble here, but I think this is a problem that we have with some pro gamers, where there's still this kind of mindset of like, oh yeah, I play video games. Like, it's kind of like this kind of college-ish, bro-ish mindset where...
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, college-y kind of mindset.
Yeah, like where you don't realize that your actions have consequences, that your words have consequences, and... It's frustrating to me to see that these amazing gamers, these very talented people who should be leading the charge for esports to be legitimate, are like kind of just casually being jerks and being foolish, and that's frustrating. So I hope that this is a lesson to everyone else, especially in the first-person shooter communities, but then moving out into the MOBA and other really serious esport communities to take things more seriously, because the more and more money is on the line, the more and more people are going to expect them to behave in a professional manner.
Though I guess if they take any cues from real sports, it won't matter if they, say commit violent crimes or do drugs or sexually assault people. They'll still get to play. So hey, if they take any cues from physical sports, they're actually not so bad.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, we're comparing Adderall and spousal abuse are just like pretty ridiculous.
They're pretty ridiculous, but I'd like for all athletes to be better role model figures, but hey, I guess what can you do? But regardless, I think this is a good initiative. It just prevents people from having unfair advantages, and then it also removes kind of a unseemly element to a very rapidly growing subset of both gaming and entertainment. So
we talk a lot about the impact factor, about thinking about what you put in the world, and pro athletes not exactly the best role models in all cases.
Nope.
So make sure that you keep a variety of role models in your life. Even I was actually just reminded of that recently, because Brett Favre was just inducted into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame in a big ceremony of forgiveness. And he was my childhood hero, and he basically, much like the Star Wars prequels, stomped all over my childhood and betrayed me in every way. So learning to forgive has been a long process.
This ain't no Packer cast. No Green Bay Packer cast. As much as I'm sure you'd like it to be at times.
Oh, man, just wait for football season. You won't be able to stop me.
Oh, God. I guess I've never talked to you a lot during football season. Oh, folks. Speaking of things we put out into the world, how about something that potentially will never be put out into the world? Just gotta pause and revel in my own transition there. That was good. Right?
It doesn't count if you compliment yourself.
Hey, Alex, that was a great transition. Really, you think so? Yeah. Oh, man, thanks for the compliment, man.
Why did I bother, remoting in from Tokyo for this? You could have just done the whole podcast, Alex and Alex, the special Impact Factor Alex and Alex edition.
That was my E3 specials. Well, we'll see. Maybe, the audience will be asking why you remoted in, too, depending on how savvy my editing is. If there's any hiccups in this episode, folks, there's Starbucks Wi-Fi in Japan, in the middle of Tokyo. Maybe not the most reliable thing.
You'd think this would be the most reliable place in the world, right?
You'd think. Everyone's on the internet there, right?
Yeah, right. That's the problem.
I guess that's the problem. Yeah, but speaking of things that are never going to be out in the world, a big rumor emerged out of the rumor mill. So before I get into any of this is completely unsubstantiated, and if anything, one of the people on the Half-Life team, or certainly someone who worked at Valve, has commented and saying that these rumors are false. However, the people who reported this rumor have had legitimate sources before. The people who reported this were the same people who reported on the Dark Souls 2 leak. Ahead of E3, they had Dark Souls 2 leaked, screenshots, information that all turned out to be true. So obviously they're hit and miss, but I think the leaked source is at least partially credible.
So what are they telling us?
Yeah, they're telling us about the game of games that people clamor for, Half-Life 3. The long and short of it is, in the current state of the gaming environment, Half-Life 3 is never going to come out. And this is for a number of reasons. Never. I know, right? People around the world are crying, throwing their computers around, closing the podcast. So this comes out of a number of things. The rumor has it, the leaked source at least, said that in 2009, Half-Life 3 had a big development team. There were a lot of people that were working on it. They got the story together. They got the storyboarding together. They had the idea for the game. But due to a number of reasons, Valve expanding the Steam platform, it's an ever-growing platform, as well as working on other projects like Left 4 Dead 2 and Portal 2, members of the team kept slowly getting pulled away until there's far less people there. Additionally, Valve makes tons of money off of their free-to-play games. That's Team Fortress 2, Counter-Strike Global Offense, or CSGO, and Dota 2. And then, of course, they make even more money from that off of the Steam sales. They get, I think, a significant cut, I think 30%, of the sales price of all games on Steam. So they're making a lot of money off of that. And so not only is the team small, the report is now the team working on Half-Life 3 is just a skeleton team of 10 people. The game is not coded. But there's also no incentive to make it. The source cited that one of the things that's on the company's mind about this is the Mass Effect 3 syndrome, where Mass Effect was one of these beloved series. Everyone thought it was some of the best, RPGs, best sci-fi RPGs that we've ever seen. And then Mass Effect 3 had this terrible ending. Mass Life 3. Mass Effect 3 had this terrible ending. People got mad. BioWare took some steps to try and fix it.
Mass Life 3. The most disappointing game that will never be made.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. So people now got mad, and now, when you ask people about Mass Effect 3, that's really a lot of what people can remember, is just how disappointed they were over the ending, which sucks, because Mass Effect 1 is a good game, Mass Effect 2 is a great game, Mass Effect 3 is a really solid and, I'd say, pretty darn good game, except for the ending. And so they say that they don't want fans to stop liking Half-Life if they release a bad game. That in this kind of culture, this rage internet culture we live in, that the game would have to be perfect, otherwise people are going to go crazy on the internet. So I've talked for a long time. Fliss, do you have any thoughts about all of this information dump?
I mean, I still want Half-Life 3 to come out. I think the incentive there to make it is that if you do make a great game with Half-Life 3, then it would be legendary, because people have wanted it for so long. At the same time, I understand why it's a very big financial investment, and if they're already successful with their current business strategy, there's no incentive to change that. Now, obviously, this is just a rumor, so I think we actually need to start getting like a rumor mill soundbite in here.
I know, the rumor mill.
Just, yeah, and just like a clip of you just being like, "This is completely unsubstantiated," like dubstep remixed.
Completely unsubstantiated. I can't really remix myself.
Don't quit your day job. But yeah, I'm frustrated because I'm frustrated because I kind of blame the community for this, because I think with this rage culture, game developers are scared to make ambitious games, and maybe that's an excuse. Maybe they're just blaming the community for not wanting to invest, like as their excuse for not wanting to invest in a lot of it. And there's probably some of that, but I think there's also a real fear that you're going to put all this work into a game, and then a couple of prominent people are going to say, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever," and then no one's going to buy it, and you're all going to be out of work.
Yeah, think about the page views and the clicks and that AdSense money you'd get if you were the first person who was well known to be like, Half-Life 3 sucks. Like, can you think of the title of that like YouTube video?
Oh God, I don't even want to imagine it.
It'd go crazy. So the person who commented on the story said that Valve would never not make a project out of fear, and that this is complete BS rumor. Ever since Half-Life 2 Episode 2 came out, there's been rumors about Half-Life 3 being canceled for one reason or another. Don't believe what you hear. I bet there's some validity to the story, certainly. I think financially, there's no reason for Valve to make Half-Life 3, because why? I mean, they make so much money off of their free-to-play games. They make so much money off of Steam. Why would they invest so much money and invest so much time and effort into a project that, at most will make them, $50 million or something like that? It's not worth it. They're making hand over fist money with, the gambling simulator that is Counter-Strike Global Offense, and the hat simulator that is Dota 2, and Team Fortress 2. Though, it would be interesting to see if fear did really play, because, with indie developers, I absolutely see fear playing a part in not wanting to put out a product. But for someone as big as Valve, it'd be interesting if it did actually get to them, too. So, I thought this story was interesting for the ideas within it, let alone, ignoring any potential truth or validity to the source.
Yeah, absolutely. But, a game that is coming out that I'm kind of excited about is Dragon Quest XI.
Ooh, are you excited about Dragon Quest XI? Should I be excited about Dragon Quest XI?
I am excited about Dragon Quest XI. Let me tell you why. Because Dragon Quest
I can hear the
Heroes,
excitement in your voice.
Yeah, man. I'm just as excited as everyone on NPR. This is Prairie Home Companion right here. Dragon Quest Home Companion.
Dragon Quest Home Companion. Oh, nice.
Keeping you soothed and relaxed while you slay slime. Anyway, let me tell you why I'm excited. Because Dragon Quest Heroes recently came out. That's the most recent Dragon Quest game we've had on a major platform. And Dragon Quest Heroes was a mix of the traditional Dragon Quest kind of characters and world setting with the slash 'em, hack 'em up, Musumo style of gameplay that we've seen with the Sengoku era games, that we've seen with Gundam style games. And this is a very cool playstyle, but it's not necessarily the original kind of Dragon Quest RPG. And so seeing Dragon Quest XI announced for 3DS and PlayStation 4 and the NX, Rising Collection
right?
question mark,
announced for the NX,
right, is very cool. And so I'm psyched. I'm psyched to see a beautiful, cartoony Dragon Quest game. I kind of want this to be like what I remember Final Fantasy being, like that kind of classic JRPG, not taking itself too seriously. Because at some point I feel like Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 13, honestly, were like just taking themselves way too seriously. So I want a game that has a sense of fun, but keeps that kind of great JRPG style gameplay. So fingers crossed. I'm psyched.
Persona 4 Golden is a game you're looking for.
I'm not looking for a dating simulator. I'm not looking for a dating simulator.
It has all the elements. I'm telling you, man. Playing Persona 4 Golden as my adult self felt like when I played Final Fantasy and Tales of the Tales games and
I love the
those
Tales
kind
of
of games when I was a kid. So I'm telling you.
I still like the Tales of games today.
They're alright. They're not great. But yeah, so I've never played a Dragon Quest game. I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is like Final Fantasy, so Dragon Quest 11 will be not related to Dragon Quest 10 or 9 or 8. It's just a similar
Dragon
kind
Quest
of world.
tends to retell the same story in the same world setting every time, and I'm okay with that.
The graphics looked great, though. I mean, they were kind of adapting what we saw with Ni no Kuni, the kind of beautiful, cel-shaded, very lush, detail-rich worlds. Look like you're playing a cartoon almost. Yeah, so we don't know what's coming out, but maybe not for a while since it's announced for the NX. But also, this could lead into our next story if you're done with it. But
I'm ready to go.
The NX, maybe this is a good sign for the NX. Maybe this is a good sign for the Nintendo that a game, a non-Nintendo game is going to come out on it.
I know, right? Like, obviously it's got that kind of, like you said, cartoony, kind of kiddie aesthetic, which, I mean, I still love, but that fits in with what Nintendo wants on its systems, but does this mean the NX could actually be third-party compatible?
Oh, no. Could it?
Can you imagine a world
it's been
with
so
third-party
long.
releases on Nintendo?
It's been so long. Maybe they'll even have parity, like they'll look the same and play the same?
In a world where Nintendo has the same system capabilities as Xbox and PlayStation. In a place where third-party games are released and are good.
People walk upside down. The sky is purple. and
it's pigs fly through the air, breathing fire.
Exactly, it's not Earth. But speaking of Nintendo, let's get into some juicy... look at my lips here. I'm a scientist. I love numbers. I love Nintendo's financials just came out. So we got some lifetime financials. It's pretty interesting, I think. Worth going through. So they published the sales figures for the Wii U, its games, and some 3DS games, and I think we got some surprising stuff here. This was a week full of sales figures, actually. So the Wii U, lifetime, has sold 10 million units. And that might sound like a lot, but let's just compare. Yeah, you gotta get that trombone thing going here. Let's just compare that with the PS4, which also announced sales figure this week. So the Wii U came out an entire year before the PS4. The Wii U has sold 10 million, just as a refresher. The PS4 has now sold 25.3 million. So 2.5 times more than the Wii U in a year less.
That is insane. I feel like the PS4 might be looking at the Wii U being like, you're so cute.
You're trying. Well, I mean, we talked about this before with the rumors that production of NX is going to start soon. Like, the sales numbers just confirm this. Nintendo is just simply not selling Wii U's. And I can't imagine this 10 million figure will be much more than maybe 12 million at most by the end of next fall. So this is among some of the worst selling, like, big-name consoles of all time. And it's kind of crazy.
But they gave us some more detailed sales figures about some of the franchises, too, right?
Yeah. So the top-selling Nintendo Wii U games. You have Mario Kart 8 at 5.3 million, Nintendo Land at 4.8, and New Super Mario Brother U at 4.8. So those are respectable numbers, certainly. That's a pretty good attach rate. If you sold 10 million Wii U's and you've sold 5 million copies of Mario Kart, you assume 1 in every 2 Wii U owners has Mario Kart 8. So that's pretty good.
Mario Kart 8 was, you'll remember, part of the major Wii U bundle when it came out.
That's true. And
Those
Nintendo Land was a
moved
launch
together.
game, as well as New Super Mario. So basically, people haven't bought a game since the Wii U launched.
Right. Basically, everyone bought the game that came with their Wii U and then just never bought anything.
And then never bought anything. And let it to sit to collect dust. So those sales are respectable. But again, when you have games that are selling, 10 million units and more than that, they're not so impressive. Again, this is just kind of reiterating, the Wii U is gone. Nintendo needs the NX to come out and needs the NX to be a hit. And just from the other side of this spectrum, too, they give us a couple of 3DS numbers. We know the 3DS does well. The most selling 3DS game of all time is Pokemon X and Y at 14 million units, which is kind of crazy. That's a lot of Pokemon games sold. So their handhelds are healthy. They're obviously making enough money to be afloat, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, so just kind of dire financials for the Wii U, and kind of tagging along with the story was the great sales figures for PS4. It's already sold, I think, outsold like the Dreamcast and I think the GameCube at this point, lifetime. So it's crazy. It's surpassed PS2 sales at this point, lifetime too.
Which is incredible. I mean, the PS2 is iconic. You know, actually, the PS2 is so iconic in Japan still that if you go to a used store here to pick up your used games, right, you can buy an N64 for roughly $30. Mm-hmm. Your PlayStation 2 is still going to run you over $100.
Jeez. Well, I mean, I don't know if any console is ever going to catch PS2 numbers. All right, the PS2 sales it's something over 200 million, I think. Like that console sold well. It was legit.
No, that was insane. And to believe that I didn't own one until I bought it like 3 years ago.
That's pretty sad. You missed out on a lot of games, dude. Oh,
I know. Well,
man.
Hey, I was a dedicated Nintendo guy. That's why I'm so critical of Nintendo. Because I was a believer. I was a true believer in Nintendo for a long time.
And let's go to quickly over these last couple bits of information here. We've got a pair of stories that affect a market that's not our own, but I think a very important market, and maybe an increasingly important market. Some news about the Chinese game sales and game markets has been is a big week for that. So on one hand, we saw the final official, all of the bans on video game consoles have now been lifted in China. So basically, since consoles have existed, they've been banned in China. And restrictions have been lifting slowly. Some consoles have been coming in the recent year or two. But now, officially, all restrictions are gone. So Fliss, this is good news? What will this mean?
This is very good news for the industry. This is somewhat mixed news, I think, for American gamers. I think that the Chinese getting into gaming is great. Obviously, games getting into China is great. This is great news because this is obviously a huge market for many companies to keep themselves afloat. This is troubling, though, because we've seen Hollywood movies, most notably the most recent Transformers movie, really start kind of adding things and shaping things to go for the Chinese market, to appease Chinese censors, to get things in there. And so I would begin to be concerned that we'll see the same kind of slow and soft kind of dampening of games in order to get them into the Chinese setting. And, you know, some games like a Call of Duty will probably never make it into China, but there are other games that, you know, like we could see references here and there designed to appease the censors, and that's something that I'm personally not happy about. I understand why they're doing it. I can't really argue with them doing it, but I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a different market, too, because, I mean, console sales have been fine over there, but when you look at the number of console sales that have made it their way over there already, and then the sheer number of people within the marketable age range for consoles, it's gonna... Obviously, it's disproportionate, right? But China has existed so long without gaming consoles that, you know, the majority of their gaming is done on the computer and on phones and tablets. And so I'll be interested now that all restrictions have been lifted. Is that really going to create a culture shift where people start gaming more on consoles, or are they just going to be so ingrained in these, you know, mobile experiences and these PC experiences that it doesn't matter, and they're not ever a significant market that like you mentioned, that developers would ever have to care about? You know, they won't have to necessarily design a game to be sold in China because the Chinese sales are always going to be something like equivalent of like Japan sales, like for console games. They're not something that you really need to care about because they're not ever going to be a substantial part of your sales.
Yeah, and obviously there are some real cultural problems there, right? Because the three big game manufacturers are Japanese, and American. So, like, not exactly the most popular culture producers in China. But, you know, actually one thing I want to throw out here is that could we see a native Chinese console? Yeah,
that's something I've thought about too, right? Because it would be so ripe to exploit that Chinese market. Like, if they make games that Chinese gamers are going to care about, and they make a console that plays to, you know, the Chinese cultural sensibilities, and maybe taking advantage of this long ingrained ideas with gaming on PCs and tablets and you know, and smartphones, there could really be another strong competitor to the market. Because I think at this point we're not going to see another competitor come out of Japan or even America. There's no point. Right, the big three have kind of have it locked down, and as games are moving more towards games as services and streaming games and digital games, you have an increased, or decreased need to have gaming consoles. But yeah, I think it would be interesting. You might have a Chinese console come up to be in the space. So I think that's something to be interested in, to see what happens with its development.
It's certainly something to watch and keep an open mind about.
Yeah, and speaking of trying to maybe create a console that appeals to the Chinese market, the Ouya, that's a console you guys all forgot about. It was that whole, it took the Android games and put them on your TV, and there was these weird controllers that looked very not comfortable.
The form factor was a little off.
The form factor is off. Pretty much, if there's only one game you've heard about the Ouya, it's Towerfall. Which was a big hit, a big local multiplayer hit. It's since been, it's been on the PC. It's since been ported to PS4. It is a great game, and so really there's no reason for anyone to have an Ouya now. The Ouya, you could buy Ouyas in bargain bins, but Razer, the gaming accessory, gaming part, the PC gaming company has bought Ouya, and they're planning this relaunch, and they're gonna market it to the Chinese market. They're going to make it just all about these mobile and smartphone games, but putting them on your screen and try to bring people that way. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure how well it'll work. I don't think the Ouya can even be successful in the Chinese market, but who knows?
Yeah, it's certainly something to watch. I mean, I thought the Ouya was a pretty stupid idea when they first announced it, because not only do I not have an Android phone, but I don't have an interest in a lot of those Android games, especially not trying to scale them up to a TV. If I want to play games on my TV, I'll play on a PlayStation. But, maybe you're right. Maybe this is something that will appeal in the Chinese market. Maybe this will be like a transition. Maybe we'll look back on this and say that this was, an evolutionary step in a more advanced Chinese console and the growth of a Chinese console market. Right? Because that seems like a natural transitionary phase, right? Go from playing games exclusively on smartphone and tablet to moving those same smartphone and tablet games over to your computer, right? Over to your TV. That seems like a natural step.
It's certainly what Sony thought would happen potentially with the PS Vita TV and now just the PS TV in Japan, right? Since so many Japanese gamers are playing these mobile smartphone games, they maybe thought that you could take these more mobile titles like that you have on the Vita and put them on your TV, and that would appeal to Japanese gamers. But I think the sales figures pretty globally have been pretty bad for the PS TV. So if that's any sign, Ouya's in bad shape, but clearly the Japanese and Chinese markets aren't identical, and so maybe this is success. It's good anyway, because this Razer story has a silver lining regardless of what happens, because Ouya owed a huge debt to a bunch of indie developers. They had promised development funds to develop their games. Obviously, Ouya went bankrupt and could not pay these expenses. Now that Razer stepped in, they're going to be paying these expenses. So, if nothing else, some indie devs get some money, which makes me happy. Maybe they'll make some cool games.
Indie devs getting paid, always a good thing.
Always a good thing. So that about wraps up our news and views. We'd love to hear from the community the news items you all thought had the biggest impact. So please feel free to shoot us an email at impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com. So Fliss, now it's time to put things in perspective.
Perspectives.
Perspectives is part of the show, well, when any number of things can happen. In academia, it's when investigators share their opinions with the community at large. Here, it's a revolving section where we experiment with what's worth discussing. Man, I always stumble over that part. It's a lot of W words in a row, man.
You gotta practice that.
I know, I gotta practice it. I got teeth on the tip of the tongue, teeth on the lips. Usually, Fliss and I will pick out an editorial piece and discuss it together, but we're bringing it back. Let's get it started. This week, we're bringing back our new type of perspective section, one we call Foundations. Foundations are the groundwork upon which any research is based. They shape the experimenter, experiments, and our communities. On the Impact Factor Foundations is a section where Fliss and I will talk about a game, system, or experience that has fundamentally shaped who we are as a gamer and scientist.
Last week, I discussed Sonic Adventure Battle 2, which was kind of a strange choice, but I think we had a fun discussion about it. So this week, Alex, why don't you tell us about one of your foundations?
You inspired me, man. You inspired me with your bizarre choice of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. As a game that's not necessarily great, and certainly doesn't necessarily hold up to modern scrutiny, but as a game that has shaped the way you look and think about games. And I think that's important about Foundations. Again, for anyone who's listening, I'm sure at some point, Fliss and I will have a section where we talk about our favorite games of all time, what we think are the best games of all time. These are not they. These are games that have kind of shaped the way we think and work in a game space, and not necessarily the games that are, 10 out of 10s games we'll play for the rest of forever. So my choice this week is, I think, one that could hopefully create some good discussion. I chose from my Foundation game, Twisted Metal 2.
What?
Yes, Twisted Metal 2. I know none of you saw coming. I love those artsy games, those platformer games, the games that are heady or emotional or dark or deep. But Twisted Metal 2 is a game, I think, that is one that really shaped some of my transition from early childhood gaming to later childhood gaming, or adolescent gaming, I'd say, where I started to kind of grasp what I thought and what I enjoyed about games. So again, Twisted Metal 2 is this game that came out in 1996 on the PlayStation 1, or the PSX, made by David Jaffe. There was a lot going for Twisted Metal 2. This is a sequel. This is a car combat game for any of you youngins who might be listening to this who weren't gaming in the mid-90s, where you selected a car who had their own particular, kind of car and kind of special powers. And you had two kind of game modes. You had a single player you went through and you fought other cars, or you had the local multiplayer where you went through and kind of fought each other. So this is car combat, so you never leave the cars. There's two cars versus each other. You try to blow each other up, like deathmatch style. There's a lot to get into, though. But first, before we get into anything about why I think this game is foundational for me, Fliss, do you have any experience with the Twisted Metal franchise, or Twisted Metal 2 in particular?
Actually, it's funny that you should mention Twisted Metal 2, because I loved this game. As we've covered, I was dedicated to Nintendo, so I did not have a PlayStation, so I could only play this at my friend's house. So he owned the game. He was substantially better than me at the game. He always beat me when we played multiplayer, but man, I had so much fun with this game, and it really kind of symbolized for me at that time, like, the difference between Nintendo and PlayStation, where this was kind of a dark, gritty game with like lots of explosions and like kind of some actually like heavy stuff in the stories of each, like the story mode of each character. Whereas Nintendo was still kind of light and fun, and so it sounds like we're coming from a similar place with this game. So tell me more about why it's foundational for you.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that too, because I similarly, my parents were very against me owning a video game console when I was a child. We had games on the computer that I played at an early age. I played some point-and-click adventures. I played some early Mac games like Math Rabbit. I spent some time with games like Marathon and Descent. And similar games of that ilk. But they were very against me getting a console. But I had a neighbor who lived across the street, Mike Hevron, who had a PlayStation 1, and so I'd go there all the time. He's such a nice guy. He's a great guy. To this day, I know he reads my blog occasionally. But he's several years older than me. But he would let me come over and play with him in games, and I remember Twisted Metal 2 vividly. It spurred a lot of things for me, that kind of what games could be, because I had spent so much of my childhood playing these computer games, which, while fun, point-and-click adventures and these these math games and games of that ilk, aren't these kind of fully realized 3D worlds. But seeing Twisted Metal on the big CRT screen or whatever, and him going around and playing as Axel, this guy who's he serves as the axle between two giant wheels to fight people, or Thumper, which is this, kind of car with hydraulics where you play as like this gangster character, or Outlaw, where you're a police car and the siren can damage other characters. Yeah. I'm legit about Twisted Metal 2 here. Seeing it happen in
Warthog.
Oh,
Warthog.
I mean, Warthog was pretty great. I liked, oh god, I'm gonna forget his name though. The tank, the bad guy. I forget his name now. I was a Thumper player. I liked playing Thumper. But seeing all that happen in this space that kind of naturally streamed in as you drove around really kind of opened my eyes to these these big open world kind of experiences, because a lot of what you fought in were these pretty large combat arenas that for PS1 era felt pretty fully realized and pretty detailed. And you mentioned this as well. Twisted Metal 2, again, is one of those games that has that darkness to it, that grittiness. These mature situations are happening. I remember actually being a little bit scared of Sweet Tooth when I saw him, because he's kind of a terrifying character. He's a guy with his clown mask and a flaming head, and people are dying, and there's implied physical violence, and I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there's some implied sexual violence, and there's people who make pacts. Like, I think everyone who drives his car is competing in this tournament to win some sort of deal from some demon, basically, to get their wish fulfilled.
Yeah. That's
and
exactly it.
So I really liked that kind of dark feeling that, like, oh, this game is exploring a space that I didn't know games could explore. I loved playing Freddy Fish as much as the next guy, but that's this kind of lighthearted point-and-click educational adventure. Whereas this kind of had its own unique world. It's kind of crazy. Looking at it now, obviously it's inspired by things like Mad Max and other kind of apocalyptic or darker fiction. But it just kind of opened my mind to this very different kind of game world that for, a 6-year-old me or a 7-year-old me was crazy. It blew my mind seeing something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of influences in Twisted Metal 2 that I think you only realized as you got older. Like the whole bargain with the demon to get your wish fulfilled takes a lot of stuff from like Faust and from the story of the monkey's paw. Like when you get to the end of each story mode, the person gets their wish fulfilled, but it's always in a way that like was not what they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So like the tank guy that we were just talking about right here, like he wants to be young again, and he wants to lead a glorious army to victory on many battlefields. And so, spoiler alert, when you get to the end of his thing, he gets his wish, and he's transformed into a toy soldier. So he will be forever young, and he will always lead his toy army across these battlefields. And it's like awesome. I remember seeing that because like at the time that I first played that, it really upset me because I wanted my character to get a good ending. But like as I got more into it, and like as I got older and kind of realized like, oh, this character is like kind of a bad person, like I was like, this is also kind of a meta commentary on like the fact that I'm the player controlling these cars. So just super cool, like way more depth than I think you would expect from a game like that. So very neat.
Yeah, definitely. And then one of the things that also kind of brought it out for me, too, is this is one of the first couch multiplayer experiences I can really think of investing a serious number of time and hours in. It's not only competing, next to someone, someone who's next to me, but getting good and trying to learn strategies and learning the maps. And multiplayer is something that I've had a mixed relationship with throughout my history as a gamer, but something I really was foundational to me, and I still enjoy to this day. I mean, Fliss and I still play Heroes of the Storm as often as we can, because it kind of brings back some of those same feelings of kind of playing next to someone and being in a team. But yeah, Twisted Metal, I spent so much time playing, I was, 7 years old here, playing against, a guy who was like 14, 15, so obviously he was better than me, but trying to find ways to exploit map weaknesses and exploit, strategies like that, and really give me that feeling that I think everyone who's played a game cooperatively or competitively next to each other knows. You've got that kind of, crap talking going on, that, oh, I got you. You can look at them. That element of screen cheating going on. You can look at their corner of the map and see like, oh, I see you're in the parking garage. All right. I know a good way to get there. And obviously, the Twisted Metal 2 multiplayer is inspired by stuff like Quake multiplayer, because you've got the power-ups that set out. You have this team deathmatch kind of mode, or just basically the free-for-all kind of deathmatch. And just really kind of started this love for me. I think that led to so many more future local multiplayer experiences for me that I just would look for whenever I could. And also why I played Thumper, because the only way I could kill Mike was by trying to push him off of an edge of a map and have him die that way.
All right, well, I've got a question for you here then. You're talking about like multiplayer, couch co-op, and things like that, and team deathmatch. I mean, first of all, I don't think we've seen a kind of arena battle car game quite like Twisted Metal. Even successive Twisted Metals have not been as successful at recreating this kind of experience. Do you think that this is a game type that could function or should be brought back in the modern systems?
I think on a much smaller scale, yes. I think a lot of the people who have played those kind of car combat games back in the day have moved on to first-person shooters. I think that's still the dominant genre to give that similar kind of feeling. And I think there is a space where a car combat game can succeed, but that's in the downloadable space, a smaller indie development scale space. I think the main reason the most recent Twisted Metal that Jaffe made was a bomb, and I played it and it was bad, a terrible control scheme aside, was that there was too many ideas. I tried to incorporate other stuff from other games, like this map control and these different weird power-ups and stuff. And I think if you just go back to a bare basics, like Twisted Metal 2 did with inspiration from fighting games, which is, with my experience with Street Fighter 2, could have been one of the main reasons I easily got into Twisted Metal 2. So you have these cars that feel wholly unique from each other. You can keep the cast small if that's necessary. They each have their own power-ups, and then keep the maps small and limited. And, I mean, the most recent game I've been playing, Rocket League, proves it's fun to play as a car still. I mean, in a non-racing context. And I think it could work, but I think you'd have to find... There's certainly a much, much smaller niche of people who would be into something like that. And so if you kept the scale down and the scope down and the cost down and the price down, I think you could find success. But there's all those factors you need to control for.
Yeah, very cool. So do you then, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's really, really cool, and I would love to see that kind of game come out of the indie space. Do you still enjoy car games? I mean, I know you've been playing a lot of Rocket League. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I do. I think, strangely, some of my most memorable experiences from childhood are games that involve a car or vehicle of some kind. There's Twisted Metal 2. Another game that I was going to put in a similar category to this that had a similar impact for me was Jet Moto on the PlayStation 1. I really liked Jet Moto.
Whoa.
Deep cuts here.
Getting things out of left field here. Like, whoa.
I mean, I remember the Mountain Dew ads in Jet Moto. Like, that's how vividly I remember it.
Wow. That is intense. Yeah. That's high-level stuff.
That's high-level stuff. And then in another similar vein, Metal Gear Solid had the same kind of impact on me, the original Metal Gear Solid. But yeah, so it just kind of made me aware of that world and made me interested. And I think before I get into too long-winded about all of this, is that for the first time here playing this game was a pure pleasure game. I had spent so much of my early gaming career, like 4 to 6, playing these educational games, and there was nothing educational about Twisted Metal. It was cars blowing up other cars, having a good time.
I don't know, man. I think that Twisted Metal could be said to teach you that the world is a cruel and unforgiving place, and that clowns with flaming heads should be avoided at all costs.
Yeah, who drive ice cream trucks. Yeah, definitely. And so for me, then it also started this kind of drive for me to play to seek out these experiences that fulfill that pleasure center, that get get those juices flowing, get the endorphins pumping, because it's just fun. It's just pure fun. You can keep your mind turned on, keep your mind turned off. It's fun. And then also, Twisted Metal 2 was among one of the small elite category of games that really got me to buy a PlayStation 1 myself. So this was... I was a complete spendthrift when I was a little kid. Money burned a hole in my pocket. The second I got money, I would spend it on gum or trading cards or magic cards or whatever else. But I wanted so desperately to have a console my parents wouldn't buy me, that every single instance I could get money, I saved. And I think early 1998, I bought my own PlayStation 1. This is like 9-year-old kid saving up money. I bought it. It was like $120. I bought a bundle of it and Crash Bandicoot 2, which is another game that is a foundational game for me. But there's too many.
I'm sure we'll talk about Crash Bandicoot 2 in our foundation section. One of us will have to bring that game up. But man, folks at home, you need to know that this is a dramatic mark in Alex's life, because this guy is totally stingy with money, like parsimonious as all get out. Like that's his word, man. Like that's who he is. So this isn't just like a gaming transition. This is a huge life transition for Alex Samocha over there.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say Twisted Metal 2 changed my life. It changed me from someone who money burned a hole in their pocket to someone who now is a complete cheapskate.
Hey, you said it. You said it.
It taught me how to save money for a console. And ever since then, I'm like, oh man, it feels good to have money saved. I'm like a bank over here. Daddy Warbucks.
To the point where you will not even spend your fake in-game gold in Heroes of the Storm to buy new characters.
Hey, it feels so nice. Ooh, look at that total. It's so high. Who knows what I could do with that gold? I could do anything.
Actually, Alex's spirit animal is Smog. Like, you're just, like, sitting on a pile of money. Like, that's just...
Oh, the invisible hobbit. Ah, man, I cannot do the Benedict Cumberbatch, but he's good voice in that. To put this all together, Twisted Metal 2 is my foundation game of choice this week because it opened my mind to these fully 3D, detail-rich worlds. They had a gritty, dark, more mature tone that I had used to, and they had a cohesive game world in terms of the narrative and the story and the characters. It introduced me to the fun and the joy you can have playing couch multiplayer. It really balanced pleasure versus learning, introducing a new kind of game for me where it's just pleasure and no solving math equations, no trying to get Zumbinis to bake a pizza or something. I don't even know. And then it got me to buy my first game console.
Wow, man. Yeah, no, awesome. Definitely a very impactful game on your gaming career and your life.
So impactful.
Thanks for wrapping that up for us in a nice academic sewn-up conclusion where you tell us what you told us. Yes.
In conclusion, my references were Wikipedia, Moto's Mountain Dew ads, Axel's ripped abs.
We'd like to thank Axel's ripped abs and Mountain Dew for making this section of the podcast possible. We're not actually receiving any money from Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Mountain Dew want to sponsor us with Gamer Fuel.
We should tweet at Mountain Dew with this podcast.
Tweet at. Oh man, get that poverty money. But I gotta say, the last thing here, Outlaw Super was my favorite. That siren, everyone in your area got hit up into the air and hit with the siren and got damaged. Oh, it felt so satisfying. Oh, it's so good.
Well, that was definitely a very cool moment in that game. But now, with that note, now that our work is done and logged, let's get into our experimental methods.
Experimental methods.
In experimental methods, Fliss and I talk about the video games we've been playing recently. No papers or pipettes, cells or census here, just our words. We look at what works, what doesn't, and what we're looking forward to testing. So, Fliss, what experiments have you been running this week?
Do we really have to have me featured on this section this week?
Yep. part 4, part 5 of the Demon Souls bet.
So, you are definitely in the lead on the Demon Souls bet here after an insane week for me at work. I think the most time I was able to put in gaming, solid block of time, was probably about 45 minutes, maybe 1 hour, that I spent playing Heroes of the Storm one night with you. I think that was it. I've just been nuts. I just got changed schools this week. I've gone from teaching junior high and elementary school to only teaching elementary school, so my school count is increasing from 2 to 12. So that's a big change.
All I'm hearing is excuses right now. I'm hearing is excuses.
It's going to be, what we're going to have to see here is a major push from me late at the end. It's going to be a hard all-nighter, several nights in a row push to try and win this as we near the end of August.
Trying to build some tension for the audience? Will he or won't he? Will he or won't he? The illustrious Fliss has only mere hours left to finish the bet.
Yeah, I feel like my theme song near the end of this Demon Souls bet is going to be Brave Sir Charles ran away, bravely ran away.
Yeah.
That's going to be me
Definitely.
in every boss fight.
So, have you made any progress? Flame Lurker? Still lurking?
I'm just stuck in the Tower of Latria. I'm just grinding my way through slowly.
Stuck. Have you beaten the gargoyle bosses? 3-1?
No, I haven't. I've not gotten to the end of 3-1 yet. That's how.
Maybe
they're
3-2. Maybe they're 3-2. I can't remember exactly.
I haven't reached. No, the 3-1 boss is the doll.
Oh, okay, right.
So I haven't, but I haven't even gotten all the way. So, like I said, barely any progress. This week, the game just almost didn't get touched.
I think for anyone who listens, who knows our core group of friends, I think it's pretty clear now Fliss is the worst gamer in our group of friends. We have a core group of 5 friends. We have a core group of 5 friends, and of this core group, 3 have completed Demon Souls, including me, and 1 has gotten most of the way through Demon Souls, but doesn't own it. But to his credit, he's beaten Dark Souls 2, and all the DLC affiliated with this too. I'm just saying,
strong language here, Alex.
I think maybe if Patrick is listening right now, or if Charles is listening right now, or even if Tony is listening, though I'm sure he's not. I don't even know if he knows how to work a podcast. the inside jokes in this podcast.
Be careful. Be careful what you joke about with Tony, because I mean that guy can shoot now, right? He got his marksmanship award. Like,
it's true. So yeah, I'm just gonna go out here on a limb and say, not only are you the worst gamer, but I need to go get my head size measured so I can get a hat that fits.
Whoa. Okay, so I want to make an argument here. Whereas I am now beginning to come to terms with the fact that I may have to buy you a hat, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I never give up. Never surrender. Got to get my Galaxy Quest references in.
Galaxy Quest over there.
Yeah, man. But no. So here's the thing. Of our group of friends that we're talking about here, I think that I am maybe a different style of gamer than you guys are. I think that you guys tend to put a lot of time into these long, heavy investment story games, or even Demon's Souls basically doesn't have a story.
There's one, but it's a story that already happened. You're just kind of discovering what's happening.
Right. So, but it doesn't have like that hook. Like, you don't have a lot of cutscenes. Like, it's a very cool game. Like, I'm not knocking it for that. I'm just saying that you guys tend to get really, really into these adventure games, whereas I tend to spend a lot more time playing games like Street Fighter, playing platformers. Like, I know you invest a lot of time in platformers, but I think that I am probably better at platformers than most of the folks in our crew. I'll go out and say that. Yeah, I'll say that.
We got to do a platform off. You and me got to do a platform off.
Yeah, I mean, I will probably lose it if you and I do a platform off, but I'll make it close. You make it close.
No,
that's good.
I'm
just saying that I think that I've had traditionally a different taste for games than you guys have. I've also spent a lot more time with racing games, and with
that's true. That is true.
Some kind of, this is going to sound kind of bad, but some kind of like lower investment games I've put a lot of time into. I'm killing you on Hearthstone right now. I'm going to say that.
Oh, yeah, what rank you at? What rank you at?
14.
Hey, I ranked up to 14 today. We're back even. I did it in 3 games.
Yeah, but, I did this without, buying all my cards. So there's a certain level, there's an element of skill that comes into practice here.
I'm probably going to pre-order that 50 card pack.
Oh, God. I'm going to judge you. I'm going to judge you so hard.
All right, so TLDR for your experimental method section is you have made 0 progress in Demon's Souls since last we spoke.
Yes, that's basically it. But, that's TLDL, Too Long Didn't Listen.
Podcast,
okay, podcast lingo. Get your lingo right, Alex. God.
Oh, God, I know. Millennials.
We'll do it right.
Yeah. All right, I'll Snapchat your reaction back here.
If you ever send me a Snapchat, our friendship is over.
And our relationship will begin.
Hey, I'm an open-minded guy. No, but my gold count in Hearthstone is up over 500. That's a sweet
Hey, nice. I've only got 2K, but so.
See, this is what I mean. This has been my problem this past week, and this is kind of what I'm talking about in terms of how we're able to invest in games, is that I've been so busy this week that I've been able to sit down for like 10 minutes and play a game of Hearthstone. And I've been able to do that a lot this week, but I've never had a solid block of time to sit down and play a game.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's hard to make the time. But that's good. So, hey, the more you lose this bet, the better I feel. So, obviously I'd like you to win, but hopefully it doesn't put you off of the Souls franchise.
Well, I was actually thinking about this. Once I do get my PS4, I've been having so much fun with the Souls game. I think that I may start streaming a Souls game, and perhaps we can make another wager in the future. Perhaps, because we have many Souls games, perhaps should I lose this bet, I should be able to redeem myself in a future game.
I'll make you a Bloodborne bet. Just stream your entire playthrough.
God. See, and I think that would be entertaining, right? If you would like to see that, folks, please let us know. Send us an email. Tweet at us. You can find me on Twitter at @thecfliss. Tell us if you'd like to see me do a not family-friendly podcast, or stream of Bloodborne or any other Souls game. Because I promise you that as much as I try, my language will not be PG when playing Souls. It's not going to happen.
I know. He does admirable work here on the podcast. Not cursed. But my playlist is more interesting. I change it up from week to week, Fliss. See, this is how it's supposed to go. Keep the folks interested.
Hey, you're the one who made this bet. We started this bet. You knew what we were getting into with this bet.
Got to tell them about those new experiences. So I spent the last weekend spending a lot of time trying to get into the Street Fighter V beta. So we already talked about this to a little bit extent. If you pre-ordered Street Fighter V in North America, you were guaranteed access to the first beta. This could have been a news story, but I was saving it for here. So this first beta was kind of a complete disaster. Capcom servers were almost never working. It was supposed to be a global test, but then they scaled it back to just North America. Almost no one was getting in, though California did get preferential treatment, so maybe that's why I was able to get in relatively frequently. Because a lot of people were sitting at their consoles all day, just constantly reloading, trying to connect to the server. Because they got it to a point where the servers were open and online, but they only let so many people in just to prevent crashes. And so you basically had to wait for someone to leave a server to get on. And there are people who would get on and then not leave all day. Or you could get on and then get booted, like I did several times. I played a lot of characters. I won't go into any technical details here because we'll get more to that in a different point in time. But it felt really fun. It felt great. The combo system is great. The frame links feel so much better, or like the target combos feel so much better than trying to do these frame links. I most enjoyed playing as Nash. I got some nice combos down. I found a way to combo into his super, which is now called Critical Arts. Never managed to pull that off online. It's kind of tough, but yeah, so it was great. It was great. It kind of frustrated me to play on the PS4 controller. I really wanted to play on a fight stick, but
I'm sure you did. Once you go fight stick, you never go back.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just the 6-button layout for Street Fighter just feels bad. It just feels weird to me on a controller. I don't like that.
You should get a fight pad.
I'm not going to get a fight pad. I'm going to get a fight stick. Fight pads are like a half measure.
Yeah, but they're a good portable option.
Yeah,
you got to take your game on the road.
But yeah, so once you connected, if you wanted to play online, you selected this mode, you selected your character, and you were sent to training mode until you connected to an opponent. And I'd say 2 hours of my 2.5 hours were spent just in training mode waiting to be paired. But I found some cool combos, I found some connections, I kind of learned the controls. They've simplified a lot of the inputs. Now Super is just like 2 of the directional input plus 1 button, either a punch or a kick.
That is a big change. It sounds like a lot of the things that they talked about that we said on this podcast we thought would be steps in the right direction actually have been. Is that the impression you're getting?
Yeah, absolutely. It felt so much better, so much more fluid to play. Rounds were very fast. People died pretty quickly. The basics, like fundamentals, were good there. So obviously the first match I played, I had no idea. I haven't played Street Fighter in a couple years because I have no one to play with, and I sucked at Ultra Street Fighter 4.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You claim to be a fighting game enthusiast, and you haven't played Street Fighter in years? Throwing shade about being a bad gamer. Well, here, I've got a big file for you.
Like a year and a half. But yeah, so I stuck to fundamentals in my online match, just like blocking at the right time, just doing a basic target combo. I would just do jumping medium kick into light punch, medium punch. Like didn't do that much damage, but I knew that I could consistently pull it off. Doing an anti-air when I saw them jumping in, and I won. Like I won pretty handily, so it was
fundamentals.
Fun. It's really made me excited, and Capcom has been very apologetic. They said that they're going to give reward to everyone who tried to get into this first beta. And this is not counting as their first beta anymore, because they had always planned 3 several like multi-day betas for this game. So this was no longer number 1. This is test 0, and that once they get stuff more resolved on their end, they're going to have a true first beta test some point in the future.
Actually, you said something on Twitter that I really liked. We were talking about how a lot of people were kind of raging. We've talked about the rage culture here. People were like, oh man, this beta, this is terrible, this is awful. But like, you said to me that, you want this stuff to happen in beta. You don't want a game to be released like this. And I completely agree with you. I mean, it's a beta. You're agreeing to be a beta tester. Like, when you pre-order this game, you're not like getting early access to the game. You're getting to help them make the game better. And that's exactly what they're doing. So, I mean, I want to see these problems come out in beta, not at release. Exactly, I hope Ubisoft is listening. I hope Ubisoft is paying attention.
Ubisoft listening. But I totally agree. This is a beta test. This isn't a final version of the game. This is an old code that they made just functionally for this to try and test. They've always said that this was trying to test their online capabilities, how their servers could handle their traffic, how it could match opponents, so on and so forth. This isn't some demo of a finished game. At earliest, this game is supposed to come out in spring of 2016. So the game is, almost 3/4 of a year off still. So the game is certainly not finished. And this is again, it's a test. We're being testers here. And so I mean, again, the issues happening here don't necessarily mean that the same issues won't happen at launch, but at least if they can get some good data from this test, they can put preventative measures in place to limit these kind of issues at launch. Because imagine, you're mad that you tried to play this beta, but imagine dropping $60 in the store and then not being able to play this game when it launches.
Yeah, that would be awful. But you've also been playing the newest indie darling of the game world.
The hotness that is Rocket League. Oh man, people are going crazy for this game. And I see why. It's such a simple, fun, easy game to get into. This is a game that comes from Psyonix. It's kind of a spiritual sequel to their PS3 game, I believe it was, Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. This title is much easier to say.
Did you practice that?
No, I just have heard it enough.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Let's see. Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. Oh god, it's the
See, now we just need to lay down a beat over that? Like,
You're all about these dubstep beats these times. But Rocket League is super fun. I'll probably talk about this next time a little bit more. But it's soccer with cars. You're in this dome. There's a ball in the center field. The normal mode is 3 versus 3. You can jump with your car. You can boost with your car. And basically, you're trying to get the ball into the other person's goal. But the systems are so simple and so easy and fluid, and it just feels great. Like they put a lot of design into making it feel so satisfying to have a goal happen. Like when you get the ball in, there's kind of an explosion, and all the cars near the goal get flown back. How powerful the goal is. It's one of those games where you know how to play within the first couple of minutes. You can understand the basics. But there's so much room there's such a low skill floor, but such a high skill ceiling. Because you have these complicated measures where you can jump to the air and then boost and fly through the air and angle your car to have these crazy aerial hits. And there's this whole metagame of being able to save and block. I wrote a piece on my blog how it's really interesting, the nonverbal communication systems that arise in the game. And people kind of naturally assume roles like a defender or a striker or a goalie. And really, it's just simple and fun and quick. And honestly, it's a game I'd love to play on Vita, because the games are only ever 5 minutes long, in and out. It's fun. It's a blast. I've gone through and earned every trophy that I can without having to grind for like 10 more hours.
Where's your dedication?
I know. Where's my dedication? I'm moving on to another game I'll talk about next time. I started that the other night. Please be excited.
You want to get
please. I hunt monsters in it. All right.
I asked for a hint, not for you to tell us.
It's a RPG. But yeah, so Rocket League is it gets so much right. It's so simple and fun, easy to play. It's pick up and play it's a phenomenon for a reason. It's kind of especially with the summer when not a lot of new games come out. This is a game that perfectly filled that spot. You can pick it up and play it every day for a little bit. I know folks at like GameSpot have like been loving it. Folks at Giant Bomb have been going crazy for this game. It's a game that's very distilled to the core of what makes games fun, and I think every once in a while you need a game like that. There's not too many bells and whistles, just a fun, functional car soccer game.
Yeah, and I mean, I really enjoyed your blog post about it, and I thought that was a great analysis and a great commentary on kind of the way working together cooperatively as gamers could work. And actually, we started to get a bit of a good discussion going in the comments there on that post as well. So I definitely highly recommend everybody to check out Alex's blog over there at theimpactfactor.blogspot.com.
Ooh, yeah. Thanks for the shout out, man. Now let's finish up with some odds and ends in a section we call errata. This is where we talk movies, TV, life, etc. Again, this is, I guess, another place to apologize. Apologize if Fliss's audio sounds too bad or there's weird jump cuts. He's recording from a Starbucks in the middle of Tokyo. We're working around it, but so thank you for everyone who's listened so far to the episode as we kind of wrap things up here.
Yeah, this is our first remote here on the Impact Factor. Definitely a learning experience here, both for us and definitely for me in terms of how to access Starbucks Wi-Fi. Not something I've had to really ever worry about before, but no, it's fun. It's great to be in Tokyo. I'm here to, like I said earlier, I'm here to pick up my younger brother, and we're gonna do some traveling in Japan. We're gonna go to a festival tomorrow night. Which is awesome, where everyone carries these giant lanterns around town, so we're going to get to see that. We'll definitely have photos of that coming on my blog, but it's going to be great. So traveling, lots of stuff like that, and man, you want to talk about being excited. You don't even have to ask me to please be excited about this one. Jurassic World is finally going to come out in Japan.
Oh, yeah? Finally coming out? You're going to actually go see it?
It's finally going to be here. I'm going to be able to see it. I'm going to watch dinosaurs eat people again. It's all I've ever wanted.
Well, that's what you need. That's what you need in your summer. Just a few more scenes of dinosaurs eating people.
And, like, I understand that it's probably not going to be the best movie I've ever seen. It probably won't be the best Jurassic Park movie. Maybe I'm hopeful that it won't be the worst Jurassic Park movie.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not. I think, regardless of difference of opinion, I think we'll agree on that one.
Excellent. So wait, what is the worst Jurassic Park movie for you?
Easily Jurassic Park 3.
Oh.
It's just bad.
See, here's my thing with Jurassic Park 3, okay? Jurassic Park 3 would have been a good movie if more characters had died.
I don't know. That's ignoring the whole child subplot. Like
we've gotten into this before, but like The Lost World, it made no sense. The Lost World was so stupid.
Yeah, but so many people died, and you got 2 T-Rexes, and you got the raptor fields, and you got great music, and Jeff Goldblum is like more engaging as a solo character than Alan Grant is as a solo character.
That's because Jeff Goldblum is amazing.
No, he is. I don't even think he acts. He's just who he is in real life in all these movies. So, guys, you're going to see that. So, now that are you in Tokyo? Is there any sites? Is there any one site you can recommend the folks to go see while you're in Tokyo, or one or two?
All right. Well, if you ever make it to Tokyo, and you, Alex, will eventually make it to Tokyo, that's going to happen.
Yeah, eventually.
One of these days, we might be in our 90s, but it's going to happen. But yeah, if you get to Tokyo, my personal favorites are definitely the Asakusa Temple, which is a combination of a Buddhist temple and a Shinto shrine in the same complex. It was reconstructed after the war, but it's beautiful, maintained. They just completely rebuilt it the way it was. It's very touristy, but a lot of fun, and it's a great little piece of traditional culture still sticking around in Tokyo. And then my second recommendation is actually Tokyo Tower. We have Tokyo Skytree now, which is a higher radio tower, taller, more popular with Japanese people. But I think Tokyo Tower is such a symbol of Japan's rebirth, and it's still so cool. And there's a restaurant at the top of it that if you're rolling in money, looking at you, Alex, if you're rolling in money, you can afford a meal at.
As a grad student, rolling in money.
Well, because you just never spend any money. Except on video games, and even then, you won't spend your in-game currency. So I'm sure you could probably pay for your meal at Tokyo Tower with in-game currency.
Oh, that's what all my HOTS money is going for. All right, hey guys, do you accept HOTS? Here's a Storm Gold for a meal up here.
Yeah, but I think
I've got like 20,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, maybe that'll buy you like a sushi room.
Yeah, right.
But no, it's a great place, and I actually a couple of years ago got to celebrate New Year's Eve right underneath Tokyo Tower, which was an awesome experience because the whole tower lit up and everybody went crazy and was having a great time there. So 2 great places to visit if you come to Tokyo.
Nice. Fliss with them Japan deep cuts. Appreciate it here.
Yeah, man. So what about you? You got any errata for us?
Oh, gosh. My piece of errata is,
Not interesting? I mean, what? Oh.
yeah, probably not interesting. It's just a piece of advice, since we've brought it up several times. Just be careful. Like, a lot of people, I think, spend pretty without thought in their early to mid-20s, because you're young and indestructible still. But increasingly, I think it's important just to watch your finances. Obviously, you don't have to be a miser like me, but it's important to always remember to, that it would be nice to have savings, because you never know when you have to. Things will come up that you have to spend money on that you can't plan for, and so by having money and savings, that's your contingency plan. So that's my little bit of errata for the folks.
Wow, man, some heavy life advice coming to you here on the Impact Factor, but
save money when you can.
Good. Talk about real life deep cuts, real talk with Alex Samocha.
Real talk. All right, that's our spin-off podcast. Real talk. The twist is it's about fishing. That's a twist. It's
yeah, man, that might be a show title.
I'm sure someone's already taken it. It's too juicy.
Yeah, you're right. We're gonna have to come up with something else.
All right, folks. Let's wrap it up here, Fliss.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. This is episode 13, appropriately enough, right? 13. We had to do a crazy Skype in from Starbucks in Tokyo, just had to happen, and why not episode 13 for that to be when it happened?
Why not?
I've enjoyed it. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I had to try and rein myself in every time I started getting a little excited. Everybody at the Starbucks kind of started glaring at me. They're like, what is this guy doing? But hopefully next time I'll be able to, be more fully myself. But hey, keep in touch. You can find me on Twitter at the @thecfliss. Also check out my blog, Fliss of the North Star, for my thoughts on pop culture, Japan, and more. I finally, at long last, have my epic post about Taylor Swift's video for Shake It Off, her interaction or tiff or discussion with Nicki Minaj, privilege, sexism, the music industry, MTV and the villains that they are, all of these things finally all rolled up into one blog post in which I probably make numerous mistakes. So please read that, call me out, let's have a good discussion. Check it out on my blog, flissofthenorthstar.blogspot.com.
Look, just from the description, it's a magnum opus here. It's like 10 different subjects you're covering. So I'm excited. I'm going to read that. But thank you, everyone, again, for spending another hour and a half of your time with Fliss and I. If you're hearing this now, the chances are you found it on our SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/theimpactfactor. We appreciate any hearts or reblogs or reshares or whatever they're called there. More people listen to it, the better. Please look us up also on the iTunes Store and subscribe to get direct downloads of the episode each week. Reading us there and writing a review would do a lot for us, a lot for discoverability. So, write a review. You just say, 5 out of 5, Alex is hot. That's all we need to see.
Or you can just say that Alex's voice is nice, but that Fliss, he just has a soothing and melodious...
soothing, nasally melodious...
Yeah, nasally. I'm indignant. I'm going to carry this indignance over to the next podcast.
I think I just lost my co-host. So for an archive of our old episodes...
Oh, no, I'll still be here until I come up with a comparable insult for the way you sound on air. Actually, you sound great on air. That's the problem. You guys could write that in the reviews. We make good harmony. So for an archive of our old episodes, check us out on YouTube by searching the Impact Factor Video Games or checking the link in the show description. The Impact Factor is an extension of my blog about video games, which is at theimpactfactor.blogspot.com. Check there every Tuesday for a new review or article. This week I wrote about... My article was titled Unspoken, Rocket League's Game Within a Game, where I talk a little bit about nonverbal communication in games and how I'm finding... not only does that create a compelling metagame of feeling out your teammates, but it also helps limit the toxicity of voice chat. And then check there every Friday for my curation of the best written pieces from the world of gaming in a section called News and Views. So send comments and suggestions for the podcast to impactfactorpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at Alex Samocha. That's Alex Samocha, like the coffee. And until next time, maybe don't try to use the Starbucks Wi-Fi and make an impact.